What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 503 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. I have to head out soon, actually. I'm headed to Boston for Dynamite tonight, Blood and Guts, my first Dynamite since, I think, February of last year. I was at a Rampage taping in Mohegan Sun here in Connecticut about 9 months ago in October. But I haven't been to an actual Dynamite since, I think, February of last year when they came to Connecticut. They were in Connecticut last November. It was too soon after the Rampage show. I was at SmackDown that week. It was a lot. I didn't go to that show. But yeah, my first Dynamite in about a year and a half almost. And I'm looking forward to it. It's Blood and Guts. And the funny thing is that in the building that they're in tonight, the TD Garden in Boston, the first time AEW was running that building, it's the exact same building. I don't know how many people know this, or would realize this. The same building, actually, that held the first War Games match on the main roster at Survivor Series last November, which was also in Boston in that exact same arena. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get right into it here. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. First from Micah, he actually left a comment in last week's video saying one of his questions was, can y'all hit the like button for my boy GSM Matthews? He doesn't ask for much, LOL. I appreciate that, Micah. That means a lot. And he's right. You should hit the like button if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. His other question, he said, if you had to choose one wrestler to be the one to retire Edge and could benefit from the win after the match, who would you pick? I know he's not in the company, but right now, I would pick Matt Cardona, he says, because he came in as Edge's as an Edgehead. The fans never took Zack Ryder seriously after Edge ruined his career, and Matt Cardona could come in and defeat Edge, and then you pair him with Chelsea Green as a main event act. But that's what I think. Do you think that could work? I think it could work. What about you? Sorry for the long question. No, that's a great question. When did Edge... I agree with all of that, except for when you said that, the fans never took Zack Ryder seriously, blah, blah, blah. You said Edge ruined his career. Was that when... I know they had a few interactions on Raw, and don't ask me how I remember this. No one else probably does, because it's so fucking obscure. But I have memories of Edge making fun of Ryder on Raw in late 2010. They interacted backstage in a couple, .com videos in 2016. Edge was on the show for a random reason. That was when Kurt Hawkins came back to the company. Ryder was still on SmackDown at that point. They never did anything on TV together. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure how he ruined his career. Everything else would make sense, and honestly, that's a great answer. I've always been I was always a massive Zack Ryder fan and a big Matt Cardona fan as well. I don't know if I see him as a main event act. Like in today's WWE with the talent they have there. I love the idea of him with Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is also doing the Karen thing right now anyway. And honestly, it works really well for her. She's doing the Sonya Deville tag team right now. Not that they can't break that up and put her with Matt if he were to come back. I think Matt Cardona having another run in WWE would be cool. I'd be definitely down for that. It wouldn't be the same as what he's doing right now in GCW and other promotions. I mean, it's not the same character. I just don't know what his limitations would be. But like with MJF, I think it's worth a shot. Again, if it doesn't work out and he leaves or whatever, I would hope he doesn't get released. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I just don't know if I see that as a main event act in WWE. Chelsea Green's more of a comedy character at this point than what she was doing elsewhere with Matt and Impact and NWA and in GCW and whatever. Could they make her more serious? Yeah, but I do like that idea though, because again, like you said, he brought Ryder into the company as an Edgehead over 15 years ago. So to kind of run that back and then he's the one to retire Edge, I think would be pretty fucking cool. I love that answer. The only other person that came to mind as an obvious person, not really an obvious person, but a good candidate to beat Edge would be Grayson Waller, actually. I know they just had a match on the main roster. Waller's first match on the main roster on SmackDown and MSG. You can run it back and tell that story. Hey, my first match in the main roster was against you. I'm going to have your last match in WWE, and then he beats him. I don't think Edge is going to have if I lose, I retire match. I think it's either they don't say anything at all, and then he just kind of has his last match, like Undertaker, where you don't really know until later on that it was his last match, or he just loses and that's it. I think that's more likely. But if you were to do a stipulation where someone were to like be able to claim that they retired Edge, I think Grayson Waller would be the guy. He took Johnny Gargano out of NXT. He rode that train for a while and got all heat out of that and whatever. He's been done fairly well for himself so far in the main roster. I would have to go with Grayson Waller. I feel like Grayson Waller would be a perfect candidate, whether it be later this year, probably next year. I don't think Edge retires this year, but maybe it's SummerSlam next year in Canada. I assume Edge probably will win his last match. I mean, then again, he did last time too. So it might be a better dynamic if he loses this time. Granted, last time he didn't know he was retiring, but his last match on record before retiring on TV was against Del Rio at WrestleMania, and he retained the world title. I think it would make more sense if he lost his last match this time. And Edge is always willing to elevate people, put people over, blah, 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 work with younger talent. I don't think he'd have an issue with that. So that's what I would do, Grayson Waller. But Matt Cardona is not a bad pick either. At Central Man Network, their question was, do you think Willow, Nightingale, and Ricky Starks were the right calls to win the men's and women's Owen Hart tournaments? I do. I was happy both won. I was kind of worried that Punk might win. Listen, I love Punk, but Punk doesn't really benefit from winning the Owen Hart Cup. I mean, it really isn't about benefiting, because Willow and Ricky can win the cups, but if there's no follow-up in the aftermath, the shit are just nearly non-existent, then it doesn't matter. So it's all about where AEW goes with the both of them from here. I think Willow's winning the Ring of Honor World Championship. They made that match official for Death Before Dishonor on Friday. She's already lost to Athena before. I think she should beat Athena for that championship. I mean, granted, Willow should be on fucking AEW TV. And she has been recently. She's been on TV quite a bit, actually. She's been on Collision. She's been on Rampage, Dynamite. She was the New Japan Strong Women's Champion. So she's been doing a lot, but she should also win the Ring of Honor Women's Championship first. The championship that has kind of always eluded her, dating back to her time in Ring of Honor a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I like Ricky Starks winning the men's cup. My only issue with it is that I'm not a fan of him turning heel. I mean, Punk has already got the fans against him anyway. Not everyone, but like a good portion of them. An audible bunch. A very vocal, not minority, but like a not the majority either, because I feel like it's 50-50. Some cities it's more than that, obviously, in Canada so far, but I don't know. I would like to see Ricky continue on as a babyface. He was already doing well in that role. He was over. I just feel like you turn him heel, what's his ceiling? On Collision specifically, you already have Jay White. You have Samoa Joe. And then if he goes back to Dynamite more regularly, you already have MJF as a world champion, so he's not going back after the world title. Not that there's a world championship to contend for on Collision, but I don't know. I mean, he already feuded with Jay White. Him and Joe would be interesting. Him and Punk is a fresh feud. The promos could be really good. I just would rather see Punk go heel. I just think that makes more sense, or have Punk be more of a Shades of Grey character. I just think it's too soon to go back to Ricky Starks being a heel at this point in time. We go to the Facebook questions from Jay, a.k.a. JJF. His question was, first question anyway. Let's see. Do you think it's possible we'll see CM Punk against any of the Elite or other stars that he's had issues with, like Moxley, Jericho, Cabana, etc.? If so, who? I could see it happening with Hangman, Omega, or Moxley, but not with Cabana or the Bucks. I think you nailed it spot on, actually. I don't think Punk will ever work with Cabana. And the thing with Punk and Cabana is this. Colt Cabana is a cool dude. I've met him before. I like Colt Cabana. That's not a money feud. Colt Cabana hasn't even been on TV for the better part of the past year or two. Like, who gives a fuck about Colt Cabana at this point? Like, that's not a money feud. Punk only has so many years left. I mean, I think anyone who likes Punk, we're lucky that he's even back. With the second run in AEW that he wasn't let go or he didn't quit or whatever. Why waste that on a Colt Cabana feud from when they had issues like 10 years ago? It might work as a TV match, but as like a fucking pay-per-view match, that's a waste. So I don't think they would ever do that anyway. I think they're on, I mean, I don't know what their personal relationship is at this point. He obviously doesn't like the guy. But I think they just don't like each other. Punk specifically just really doesn't like him. And they're going to leave it at that. And that's it. And they just kind of go their separate ways. The Bucks and Omega, I mean, there's legal stuff involved. Tony Khan, I mean, listen, we can all have our criticisms, myself included a lot of the time. We can all have our criticisms of Tony's booking, but I think he's smart enough to realize that if this legal shit wasn't the case, and the brawl wasn't as bad as it was back in September of last year, Punk's first program back would have been with the fucking Elite. I mean, that just makes the most sense. That's the biggest money feud they could do at this point with who they have on their current roster. But that will probably not never happen. I don't want to say never. But at least for the foreseeable future while the wound is still fresh. And again, the incident happened almost a year ago, 10 months ago at this point, over 10 months ago. But like with the way that people have still talked about it and bullshit has still been leaked from the inside and just fans talking about it, it really hasn't helped. And even Punk's own comments and stuff like that haven't helped either with the way he's conducted himself on social media, specifically Instagram. I think at some point we will get that. The question is, and I've said this before, will it still be as much of a anticipated match come that point? I mean, the Elite may not even be there at that point. Punk, by the time that this shit gets cleared up with all the parties involved, one, people may not care as much. They probably won't. And two, one of the people involved may not be with the company anymore. You also want to capitalize on it while people do not know that they've kind of rekindled their issues. You want people to think that they have issues with each other so they make more money from the feud. I think that would just make the most sense. As far as the other people, I could see the other people. Hangman, maybe. It sounds like Punk and Hangman still have slight of an issue, not as much as the Bucks. It sounds like Omega and Punk are completely cool, or maybe not completely cool, but way cooler than Bucks and fucking Hangman are with Punk. I don't know. That's just the vibe that I've gotten from it. But then again, we heard at Forbidden Door, Omega and Punk had to be kept on separate sides of the building. Like, I thought the issue wasn't with them, though. I thought it was with Punk and the Bucks. So I don't really know what to believe at this point. I mean, Punk and Hangman would be a natural route to go based on, because they already had issues on TV. Omega and the Bucks did not with Punk. Everyone knows about it, obviously. Hangman and Punk would be the way to go, but Hangman would have to win just because Punk won the first time and maybe Punk's a heel. I would like to see that. I feel like that could be a possibility at some point, maybe not right now. The two likeliest people that you said are Moxley and Jericho. Most likely Jericho, just because we've already seen Punk and Moxley have their thing. They had 2 matches. There's really no reason to run it back. Like, AEW completely dropped the ball with that feud. They had their 2 matches within like a couple weeks span. The first match was a fucking squash, and the second match was good, but I just don't care to see it at this point. I really don't. I mean, what is really accomplished from doing that? I don't really know that they have an issue with each other. I know Moxley had kind of gone on record saying that, maybe it was Punk actually, not Moxley, but regardless, someone had gone on record saying that, they didn't want to work with the other person or put him over. I think it was Punk talking about Moxley and how Moxley did not want to put Punk over in that first squash match or whatever last summer. I think he's probably cooler with Moxley at this point than he is with the Elite. I mean, I haven't heard anything else about that. Again, there's really nothing accomplished from that. And the Jericho thing, we heard about the reported meeting that Punk had with Jericho and maybe others a couple of months ago. And if Jericho's cool with Punk, great. But, again, by having them work together in AEW, what exactly is accomplished? I feel like that benefits Jericho way more than it does Punk or even the audience. Like, who cares about that at this point? They've had 1 million matches in WWE. I really have no reason to see them run it back in AEW. They're older now. Again, who cares? The Moxley one makes sense because he's still a top star. He can go. Not that Punk and Jericho can't go. They can. They've had a lot of great matches in AEW. I just don't really see the point of that. We already had heel Jericho and babyface Punk in WWE. They reversed the roles a couple times. I'm kind of good with that. I don't really think Punk needs to work with any of those people. He should work with the Elite, but the problem is I just don't think that's likely anytime soon. Ever? Yeah, probably ever at some point, but just not right now. Your second question, let's see here. What would be the biggest quote-unquote failed push in WWE history? The closest someone got to the top without winning the world title or getting significantly over. I feel like 91-92 Lex Luger is up there. I mean, there's 1 million different answers you could throw out there. Luger was the first one that came to mind before I even finished reading your question. I mean, the guy was on the brink of becoming champion in 93. I mean, you said 91-92 Luger, but, 93 was when he was at his most over. And then he lost, by count, or you want to by count out or whatever, right, at SummerSlam. And then you fast forward to WrestleMania the following year. He doesn't win the championship, and that was about it. So, Luger, because people still say, oh, did he get Lugered? Is Cody Rhodes going to get Lugered at WrestleMania? I think we've even talked about that here on the show before, many months ago. That's a term that's still used today. And he could have been a multi-time champion in WWE had they not fucked it up that first time. And again, Bret Hart was just better than Luger, and he was just going to get more over because he connected with the audience in a different way, and it wasn't a short-term fad or whatever like it was with Luger. But he still probably should have won the title at least once. If you have fucking Psycho Sid as champion among the other people that were holding the belt at that point, why not Lex Luger at one point in 93 or 94 or whatever. I don't know if this is a good answer. I mean, I don't really give a fuck about the guy at this point, but at the time he was significantly over. Probably not the biggest failed push, but he still comes to mind as like the biggest Luger in recent years. Ryback. Now, Lex Luger was better than Ryback, I think, and had more potential to be a bigger star long-term in the main event scene than Ryback. But, I mean, regardless, I mean, the guy's an idiot from what it seems like and how he acts and how he conducts himself on social media and shit that he says and whatever. The guy's just a fucking loser at this point. But 10 years ago, he was incredibly over. And then even when they made him a babyface again, he was still over. They completely butchered that. Like, it wasn't just one loss. It was like Hell in a Cell 2012. And then he lost again at Survivor Series. And then he lost again at TLC. And then he lost again at the Rumble. He lost again here and he lost again there. And then like WrestleMania 29 was the final fucking shot where he lost again. Then he turned heel and they completely ruined any momentum that he had. I think Ryback's got to be up there. Again, Ryback, would he have been a main event star today? No, Ryback would have phased out at some point. They would have had to turn him heel. Probably not as quickly as they did. He could have won the championship, just the problem that it came at the wrong time, with Punk doing the whole 434 title reign. But he was over with a lot of people, not just like, oh, the casuals. Like, I was on the internet at that point. I was on Twitter. I know you were as well, Jay, and that he was just really over, and I was always the biggest Ryback fan. I thought he could have won the championship had it just been at a different time. And I feel like he could have been I'm trying to think what else he could be compared to in recent years. Like, who's a big guy? Maybe like a Bobby run, like a Bobby Lashley run in 2012. I mean, he was a babyface at that point, but like Bobby becoming champion now was kind of like what Ryback was 10 years ago with how over he was and the momentum he had, and they completely fucked it up. That's like Bobby getting as close as he was to the main event scene. I mean, which he was in 2007, but again in 2021, and then they don't put the championship on him. And then that's it, which they had done many times before, but they actually went through with it in 2021, which I was very happy to see, and he deserved it. And he still is a top guy now, and they kind of made him into a main event guy with that title run. Ryback probably would have been at that level, but because he lost so much, people never really saw him at that level again. He got a token Intercontinental Championship run in 2015, but even that wasn't the greatest. It was solid, but it wasn't amazing. And then they just never really booked him properly. Like, he never really won whenever it mattered most after that. Like, he dropped the championship, and then he was just kind of there. And they had one world championship at that point, too. It wasn't at a point where they had two. When he first got over in 2012, they had two world titles, but they merged them like a year later, and it was too late by then. He could have been like a secondary world heavyweight champion. If that was today, he probably would have been the world heavyweight champion. I know they had the world heavyweight championship at that point too, but he was on Raw and it just didn't work out. So, yeah, Lex Luger's probably my answer. Ryback's another one that comes to mind. There's so many others, but those are the two biggest examples that come to mind in my opinion. Now we move on over to Twitter. Let's see. At Reborn Again, I haven't put the questions in the doc yet, so I apologize. But at Reborn Again's first question, John Ritland from the Twitter machine, and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. His question was, what are the chances AEW doesn't have tomorrow's Blood and Guts go on as long as the incarnations of the last 2 years? Asking because 45 minutes inside of a Cage War Games matches, they get ridiculous, he says. It's not looking great as far as it being on the shorter side. What do they have announced tonight? They have Blood and Guts, but they also announced, Jack Perry and Hook for the FTW title. Did they announce anything else? Because they already wrapped up all the other tournament matches. I think that might be it. So no, I do think they're going to follow the same formula as the last 2 years, where the match goes on for at least 45 an hour. I would say the entire second hour. And I'm looking forward to it because I'll be there, but it just does drag on for a long time. It's just the lay of the land, and that's just how the matches work. WWE was very similar with their War Games matches last year. Probably not as long, but they were still pretty long with the way that they work and the way that they have entrants come out and shit. It really should be 4-on-4 and not 5-on-5. That would cut down some of the time. But anyway, I think it's pretty likely it's going to go as long as the other installments from the last 2 years. At Iwagu91's first question was, let me talk to you, he says. Do you see LA Knight challenging and defeating Austin Theory for the United States Championship at SummerSlam? I don't think it's going to happen at SummerSlam. I think it should. I mean, if they had any fucking brains, they would do it at SummerSlam. But I think the SummerSlam card's like pretty much full. I tweeted this yesterday. It looks like they're going to have 4 women's matches at SummerSlam. 2 being non-title, 2 championship matches. That's great. It doesn't leave a whole lot of other room for other matches, though. They already announced Cody and Brock, 3. Balor and Rollins is happening. You got to imagine Gunther and Drew is happening. That's 3 matches right there, so that's 7 matches total. There was another match on SmackDown. I don't remember now. There were other matches I'm thinking that are just bound to happen. Oh, Becky and Trish I already mentioned with the women's matches. I don't know, but those are the most likely, though. I don't think we get LA Knight in theory for the U.S. title at SummerSlam. Maybe on the pre-show, but they haven't really done pre-show matches in a long time, and I'm not complaining. And I'm also not even convinced Knight's winning the whole thing. I mean, I don't want to be, negative here, but I just think there's a chance, especially with Santos winning the first qualifier. LA Knight should be a babyface, obviously. With how fucking over he is, he's a great heel, but he should be a babyface at this point. I'm just not convinced he's gonna face Santos because that's such a weird dynamic. I feel like Santos is either gonna face a heel. Are there even any heels in that 4-way on Friday? I mean, LA Knight's kind of a heel. Rey Mysterio's in the match. Sheamus is in the match. And I don't remember the other person. But I don't think it was a heel, though. I think it was a babyface. I don't remember who that was. But, I'm trying to think who else was in that match. I don't remember, but still. Or was it Karrion Kross? I think it might be Karrion. I don't think it was. I don't think it is Karrion Kross. Whatever. I think it's a lot more likely that Santos wins the whole thing and maybe he fails to beat Theory. It really should be LA Knight. And I've said this before, I think there's a chance that maybe they do the whole Matt Riddle thing. Remember when they had the Intercontinental Championship Battle Royal a couple months ago? And Riddle lost. But Ali won the whole thing, which was fucking weird. But they were saving Riddle for down the road. They saved Riddle for Money in the Bank and also this past week's Raw. They did the same thing with the Intercontinental Championship Tournament with Gunther late last year, where it was pretty clear they were building to Gunther and Strowman, but they actually had Ricochet win the tournament, and they did Ricochet and Gunther in the meantime, and they saved Strowman and Gunther for down the road. So they could probably be doing that here, where LA Knight loses the match, or they set up another interim opponent for him in the meantime, and then he wins the championship eventually. I mean, sooner the better. The Theory run is just gotten terrible, so sooner the better on that front. But it is pretty possible that he doesn't win. So the answer is no. I don't expect that, but that is what I think would be the best call and what I would want to say. Back to John Ritlin. His other question was, how do you think Dragunov would do in the main roster? Ilya Dragunov, that is. Possible mid-card contender or even close to the main event. I love Ilya. I don't think he's getting anywhere near the main event scene. I would love to be wrong. He's just not a guy I think Vince especially is going to see main event potential in. The guy is amazing. He's a smaller guy. I just don't see them pushing him at that level. I would love to be wrong. I mean, he's not the same guy. Dragunov's better, but JD McDonough is very good, and we've barely seen any of the not even in the mid-card scene. And he could be a great mid-carder. We haven't even seen him on Raw most weeks. So, honestly, I don't see Dragunov anywhere near the main event scene. He'd be lucky if he ended up in the mid-card, competing for one of the 2 mid-card titles, winning one of those mid-card titles. I don't think, not that he wouldn't do well on the main roster, I think he can, but just with Vince being back and just the overall atmosphere of the main roster, I just don't expect him to have a high ceiling. I hate to say it, I really don't. I think they would make him a lower undercard guy to come in and have good matches once in a while, but not really do anything. That's kind of what I fear. At Iwagu91, their other question, continuing on about LA Knight, isn't it amusing that since he and his sister, quote-unquote, Maxine Dupree, that they're doing better since leaving Maximum Male Models? I mean, I guess so. I mean, Maxine Dupree hasn't changed their name or anything, but yeah, she joined Alpha Academy, and she's been doing great. And meanwhile, MMM aren't even on TV. That was another thing. They were kind of feuding with Alpha Academy. Maxine joined them instead, and MMM never had a match with Alpha Academy, and that was it. And they haven't been on TV in months. And not that I'm really, again, complaining. They play their roles well. They're a great little comedy, team, but you can't take them seriously, and just people just don't give a fuck about the team. They just never really got reactions. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Maxine is doing far better off without him, as is LA Knight, as he never really should have been with them in the first place, right? Well, what a concept. John's third question here, are you planning to see, or watch rather, either Barbie or Oppenheimer this weekend, or both? I am planning on seeing both at some point. I was going to see Oppenheimer on Friday. Something came up. I probably won't get a chance to at this point. Maybe on Saturday. I would say on Sunday, but I think Alexis is busy on Sunday and she wants to see it. I may not be able to see either of them this weekend. I hope I can. I'm not convinced that I will. Barbie, I definitely won't because I want to see it, but I'll probably go see it with Alexis, and she's seeing it with some other people first. So I have to kind of wait until after she sees it, which won't be until next Tuesday. So if she says I loved it, I would go see it again. Then she'll go see it again with me. And if she doesn't love it enough to go see it again, I'll have to go see it with someone else or myself, as weird as that sounds, which I don't really care going to see a movie by myself. I just think it'd be weird to go see the Barbie movie by myself, but hopefully she'll want to see it again. But either way, John, I know you go to the movies by yourself all the time. That's why I say that. I mean, like, who gives a shit, right? I think it's cool. I actually saw The Flash by myself a couple of weeks ago. It's great. And you'll probably be seeing Barbie by yourself as well. I guess I don't want to be judged, but who gives a shit, right? Maybe we can go see it together. Maybe we can get tickets together. And if you already have company, then I guess I'm shit out of luck. But in all seriousness, though, I am looking forward to both movies. I will see them at some point. I just don't know when. Like I saw Little Mermaid with Alexis far after it came out. It came out in May, it came out in May, Memorial Day weekend. I didn't see it until 4th of July. So we'll see if I end up seeing it soon. Back to Iwagu 91, Eddie Kingston stated after beating him on his first G1 Climax match that he wants to face Shingo Takagi again, whether it be at All In, All Out, or on an episode of ROH TV or event or whatever. What do you think? If he asked for it, Tony Khan will probably give it to him. It's not a match that makes any storyline sense in AEW, and who really cares? But, I'm sure they're going to have a great match. I don't watch the G1. I'm sure they had a killer match. If they want to run it back in AEW, cool. I guess. I don't really care, but that sounds cool, though. Ring of Honor would probably be a better fit for it, just because I think randomly bringing in New Japan guys and wasting TV time on them, if they don't really serve a storyline purpose, is kind of a waste of time. Ring of Honor's a fucking mess anyway, and they tend to bring in New Japan people to their pay-per-views. At least they did with Supercard of Honor. I think that would be a better fit, honestly, for like a Ring of Honor show. I don't think Eddie's going to be a Death Before Dishonor, though, because he's at the G1 Climax right now. So maybe on the next one. At noob_n_co TV, their first question was, do you think it's a mistake that AEW bought Ring of Honor? For the past couple of months, it's nothing but a combination of AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. No feuds and no storytelling. I think it's a mistake right from the beginning. I think it was a mistake right from the beginning. Well, what do you mean? We got Dark Order and the Righteous. Is that not an exciting enough feud for you? In all seriousness, it's been a mess. Ring of Honor is not bad. I was saying this to a lot of people who responded to my tweet a couple of days ago. I tweeted it out, I think on Friday, where I don't think I had watched Ring of Honor TV at that point for last week. But up to that point, they had announced a total of 0 matches for Death Before Dishonor. The pay-per-view was on this Friday. It's coming up this Friday. Now, they've since announced a couple of matches. Claudio will defend his championship. They're not announcing his opponent, I would very much assume, until after Blood and Guts tonight. Maybe Ibushi pins Claudio and they do the match on Friday. That is very possible. I don't know if they want Ibushi losing to Claudio 2 days after his AEW debut, but it's very possible. But anyway. They haven't announced his opponent yet. Samoa Joe, we don't know his opponent. It's probably going to be Samoa Joe and Dalton Castle. They announced Katsuyori Shibata and Daniel Garcia, I think. Willow and Athena for the women's championship. And they typically do like 12 fucking matches. I hope not. This pay-per-view does not need that many matches and like random matches for the sake of getting people on the show. My problem is this, and I won't go on a major tangent about it right now just because I just don't have the time. But they've dedicated so much time to Ring of Honor TV. I asked Tony Khan about this at one of the press conferences, the Supercard of Honor press conference a couple of months ago. Like, what is your threshold for how long these shows are on Honor Club? Paying $10 for it, by the way, is fucking ridiculous. Imagine paying $10 for Dark. It's the same thing. It's got better wrestling. Ring of Honor is not a bad show, but there really aren't a lot of storylines. The fact you haven't really had 0 feuds going into this pay-per-view is inexcusable. And then you're expecting people to pay, what, $35, $40, $50 for a pay-per-view? What, just because it's going to have good wrestling? Give me a fucking break. Now, Ring of Honor does have more eyes on it now than it did before AEW bought it. 100,000%. That's not even a question. But at least before, when it was its own Sinclair Broadcasting thing, I mean, they didn't really have a choice. It was either this or they shut down. And if WWE bought it, I'm not even saying that'd be a better option because they just would have been a fucking tab on Peacock. They would not have kept the promotion alive. Give me a break. Anyone thinking that WWE buying it would have been a better option. It wouldn't have been. But under AEW, it hasn't been doing that much better. They've defended the titles on Ring of Honor TV, or AEW TV rather, and that's great, but just, are that many people watching the weekly show? I mean, the weekly show is 90 minutes, okay. It's like 2 fucking hours some weeks, and I'm like, why? It's like 13 squash matches. They had a 3-hour show a couple of weeks ago with like 19 matches. What the fuck? I mean, people will say, oh, then you don't have to watch all of it. Okay, but it's not going to make me want to buy the fucking pay-per-view either. I mean, that's ridiculous. How much do these matches even mean? Like, Mercedes Martinez was getting squash after squash. Where is she gone? I haven't seen her in weeks. I just don't get it. I really don't understand it. Ring of Honor TV right now is just a very fucking missable show. Once in a while, they have a really good match. You should go out of your way to watch. I've watched every episode so far in Honor Club, and I was following it consistently before AEW bought it, before they went out of business. And it wasn't an amazing show even at that point, but it was an hour, and they would have a couple video packages. We need more of that. There's no character development of the current show. There's not a lot of storylines. It's just a bunch of random fucking matches taped before or after Dynamite or Rampage or Collision, whatever. What does that sound like? To me, that sounds like another version of Dark, which is exactly what it's been. When you got Tony Nese on the show, I mean, they haven't been on as much in the last couple of weeks, but the fucking Trust Busters in the Varsity Athletes, again, that is Dark. You can dress it up however way you want. It's still dark at the end of the day. And that's not good. That's not a compliment. Again, I enjoy the wrestling on the show, but they've dropped the ball with Ring of Honor. I'm very disappointed they haven't done more with it. Again, anyone thinking, oh, why are people complaining? It's better than them shutting down, or it's better than them going to WWE or WWE buying it. I agree. But that doesn't mean that people can't complain about how disappointing and how fucking forgettable the weekly show has been. I mean, it's like Tony Khan doesn't even really put any effort into it at all. This is why, as we've said before, Tony Khan needs to delegate his duties. He needs to find someone to run Ring of Honor. Him doing it himself and booking all the matches on a fucking napkin at Denny's at midnight. Oh, I'm going to do Tony Nese versus Dalton Castle this week. I mean, that's not cutting it. That doesn't count. That is not effort. That is matches. I could book that in 2K23. Probably better than he can. I mean, come on. He has a massive roster, enough people to be assigned to Ring of Honor. I'm not even debating that. But you need to put actual effort into this stuff. There's no effort on the show. I just see matches, and they're not even, usually they're like matches. Okay, it's a good match. Okay, I can watch good matches anywhere. I watched a lot of good matches on Raw this week. Raw is more eventful. Say whatever the fuck you want about Raw. Raw is a more important show than fucking Ring of Honor TV. I don't know. It's been disappointing. It's not that it can improve, but I just think that they should be doing a better job of making it feel more important and putting more effort into it, into making its own brand. Currently, it just feels like the leftovers of AEW. All the losers that can't cut TV time in AEW, they're just getting their own brand on Honor Club. You're paying $10 for. If the show was for free on YouTube, that would just make way more sense. But maybe he's trying to justify his purchase of the promotion by putting it behind a paywall. I have no fucking clue. I just think that's insanely dumb. I thought it was dumb from the get-go, and now having seen the show, I think it's even worse. I don't pay to watch any wrestling except for pay-per-views. $10 for Ring of Honor TV is not enough people are talking about it. That is ridiculously dumb. I mean, that's such an absolute waste of money. I mean, the show's not worth $1, let alone 10. I take that back, actually. I have to pay for Impact, because Impact's $1 on fucking YouTube, but, I mean, Impact's a 10 times better show than Ring of Honor TV is. It feels more consequential, but again, that's just me. At noob_n_co TV, another question from them. So on SmackDown, the Street Profits are invited by Bobby Lashley. We're invited by Bobby Lashley, I guess in his limo he means. Are we seeing the return of the Hurt Business, and will Bianca Belair maybe join them? A Hurt Business reunion is kind of what the vibe that I kind of got from watching that segment on SmackDown last week. I don't know if it would be the Hurt Business exactly. The funny thing is that they could reform the actual Hurt Business with the people that are there, because again, they're not gone. We haven't seen Cedric and Shelton in weeks. We haven't seen MVP in weeks. They're just not even on the show. They could bring back the entire group in its original incarnation, but they just don't want to. Whatever. If you want to do it again, but with the Profits instead, that's not a bad option. I would be okay with that. Use that as a vehicle to get over Montez as a single star, give Bobby something to do, turn them all heel, something fresh. Maybe Bianca joins them. I think the real money with Bianca is by having her and Montez as a little, on-air faction, or not faction, but as an on-air couple, as they are in real life, as heels. Putting them in a group isn't a bad idea, though. The problem is that Bianca is, I would think she's currently a babyface. Charlotte's a babyface, but if you turn Bianca heel, the automatic top babyface in that division is Charlotte Flair. We've said this before, but it's a problem. You just run into that issue, where Charlotte then becomes your de facto top babyface, and she's not a top babyface. So they would have to work that out first. I guess you could say Io Sky, but she's just not there yet. I don't know if they see her on that level anyway, as being the top babyface of that division. But on paper, the idea of the Profits, Bobby, and Bianca as a group, whether it's called the Hurt Business or not, I do like that idea. I think that's really cool. At Colin_McAndrew, his question was, thoughts on Dirty Dom winning the North American Championship. Well, the funny thing is that you actually broke the news to me because I have not watched NXT yet. And so when I saw your question, I was like, oh, okay, well, he won the championship. So that was kind of the spoiler for me. Not that it really matters, but cool. I mean, I guess I have to watch it. I'll probably try to watch it when I'm done here and before I take off. Cool. That's, yeah. I guess we'll see what happens. I feel like it's kind of not random, but like it gives Dom a championship. But Wesley was supposed to face Ali at the next pay-per-view at the Great American Bash Show. Does that become non-title, or does Ali just face Dom instead? Because if so, I mean, that's random, and I just don't care. So that's not where the story is. I feel like he kind of messes things up with NXT. Unless Dom just loses it right back to Wesley one of these weeks. I don't know. It gives the Judgment Day more gold, like the Bloodline when Solo Sikoa won the North American title late last year before, vacating it the following week. Maybe we see something similar here. If that's the case, that's just fucking dumb. I mean, Wesley was champion for so long, to have him lose it to a guy that only drops it after a month. I mean, I guess Carmelo Hayes, same thing when he dropped it to Solo Sikoa, is pretty dumb, but again, that's just me. Bill Meister 88, his question, kind of along the same lines. With Dom winning the North American Championship last night, which is more viable? Balor beating Rollins at SummerSlam with a world title and Priest cashing in, or Balor loses at SummerSlam and Judgment Day kick him out on the Raw after for being the only failure? I don't think Balor gets kicked out of Judgment Day. If anyone's getting kicked out of Judgment Day, it should be Damian Priest. I mean, Balor going back to being a babyface on his own, who cares? I feel like no one really cares about Balor regardless, but I feel like he's better with Judgment Day and as a heel. What does Damian then become the leader? I guess it's Rhea. I don't know. That's not really. I don't know. Finn works well in the group. I would not kick Finn out of the group. Priest leaving Judgment Day seems more likely and inevitable. So I guess I would go with the former. I don't see that either. I don't see Balor winning the championship, then Priest cashing in, but I feel like that's more likely than Balor getting kicked out of the group. I don't really want to see that either. I don't think Rollins should drop the championship yet. I don't think Priest needs to cash in right now either. And I feel like that's more likely than the second option you presented. Your second question: do you agree with The Undertaker that Bray Wyatt on his return needs to go back to his original character and bring back the Wyatt family behind him? No, I don't, because one, it's been done, and two, as much as I love the character, it's not even going to happen anyway. I mean, Bray Wyatt even said in an interview earlier this year, with Ryan Satin, that he can't go back to that character in his own mind because, I mean, you mentioned the Wyatt family. I mean, Luke Harper died. I mean, he was in AEW anyway, but Brody Lee passed away. The Wyatt family would not be the same without Luke Harper, Brody Lee. I heard yesterday from Fightful that they were going to give Wyatt his own faction had he stuck around and not gotten sick earlier this year. That's fine. It wouldn't have been the Wyatt family, but you can't recreate the Wyatt family. If you want to do something different and give him another faction, that's fine. I guess it's not really necessary because we already have a lot of factions as it is. But I think that's better than revisiting the Wyatt family because that's dead and gone and that's not coming back. That character of Bray was amazing, but they fucking ruined it for one. And two, he doesn't want to go back to it. And I don't think they would make him given the circumstances. So no, he's not going to go back to it. What I think they should do, though, is not go back to The Fiend either. I saw a lot of people say that, The Fiend was what worked. No, The Fiend sucked by the end. The Fiend was cool in 2019. They ruined it. With Hell in a Cell, they ruined it with the Goldberg loss, and they ruined it at WrestleMania 37. The Fiend is dead. Let's move the fuck on. It's like Finn Balor's demon. They killed it. It's time to move on. What he should do instead is what he did when he first came back last year and act like himself. None of this hocus pocus supernatural, bullshit. That's nonsense. Just go back to being whatever his name is. Something Wyndham, Wyatt, whatever the fuck. To me, that just makes more sense. I just think he should go back to being himself, and I don't know what happened there, and if it was his own ideas, I would assume it was, and he wanted to do the Wyatt 6 thing. I mean, I guess you could still give him a faction, but he's got to be himself. Like, I feel like that was the most compelling version of Bray. Maybe it would have gotten boring at some point, but it was better than going back to the hocus pocus crap and the Uncle Howdy shit that never went anywhere. That was just stupid. And his last question, non-wrestling related question, but will you go watch the new Wonka movie about the origins of Willy Wonka, which is out in November? Probably not. I haven't seen the trailer. I don't really want to watch the trailer. I don't really want to watch the movie. I know it's a different movie. One, I don't think it's necessary. Two, they did that Wonka movie, the remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka and the Charlie, whatever the fuck it was, whatever they call that. I forgot which one's the book and which one's the movie, and which movie is which. That remake with the I know it was a Tim Burton film. I thought that fucking sucked. I mean, I like Johnny Depp a lot, but that movie was just goofy, and it was weird, and it wasn't funny, or it was just fucking odd. Very odd. I did not like that movie at all. I know that's not what this is. I just don't really think it's necessary. I'm not the biggest Timothée Chalamet fan anyway. I don't hate the guy. I just don't really care about the guy, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have any desire. Unless I hear it's amazing or it has some significance of some sort where everyone I know is watching it, everyone's talking about it, then maybe. At this current point, do I have any desire to go see it? Am I anticipating it? No, I'm not. I'm going to go see the Haunted Mansion movie, even if it ends up being fucking awful. I'm a bigger Disney fan. I'd rather see that anyway. I will be seeing Haunted Mansion. Maybe Blue Beetle when that comes out soon, the new DC movie. I assume that's probably going to be bad as well, but I'll likely go see it. I mentioned Barbie. I mentioned Oppenheimer. We mentioned summer movies before. Those are the big ones. I forgot what else comes out this year, but those are all the big releases I intend on seeing in the near future. Thank you guys for checking out I was going to say movie review or whatever the fuck, as we're talking about movies. No, thank you for checking out #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. Episode 503. Thank you guys so much for all the support every single week. I really appreciate it. I said this the other day, but there's been a lot of content here on the channel since last Friday, so if you haven't checked any of it out or some of it, check out all of it. We've got interviews with Vinny Del Negro and Del Curry, NBA alumni. Two great guys. Quick chat here on the channel from last week talking about the American Century Championship golf tournament from last weekend in Lake Tahoe. We had a new Universe Mode, which I already pre-recorded, by the way. We got new Universe Mode episodes every Friday, and I already recorded them for the next couple of weeks. This Friday, next Friday, the following Friday. So they will be out. I just have to edit them and shit. And I mean, there's not really much editing that goes into my videos and stuff, obviously, when it comes to the Universe stuff. I just screen grab and, have to edit the, thumbnail and shit, but that's about it. But anyway, not the fanciest situation, I know. Not the fanciest process. But we got new Universe Mode episodes coming out from last Friday and more ones to come. We had a new 2K23 GM Mode episode coming out on Monday. A Raw Talk review yesterday. This here today, obviously. More interviews, archived interviews that I'll get a chance to, when I'll post when I get a chance to do so. Hopefully in the next couple days, weeks, whatever. And there was also a SmackDown audio review. I did a SmackDown Lowdown review, a Collision review, and a Dark Side of the Ring review. A lot of reviews over the weekend, so if you haven't already, please check out that content. I would appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and most importantly, subscribe. Hit the bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have an awesome one, guys. I'll try to enjoy Boston today and Blood and Guts tonight. Hopefully I don't get Moxley's blood all over me. Assuming they don't break the new rules of blood in the audience. Maybe I'll get blood on me anyway. We'll see. So, wish me luck. Enjoy the show tonight. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.